my presentation.
You
Talk
were
for
gonna
me.
say that.
So that one doesn't need to stay running, stay up, right?
You can just unplug it and leave it up.
What computer do you have, Trey?
Got a Surface.
You have it with you? Let's try it out. You got 3 minutes. Go.
3 minutes. There was an M&M on the floor.
Find it? There it is.
Thank you. No, I'm doing okay. I might doze off later, so if I do, just throw something at me. If I see something
I know, I really do. I look
you need
for
to
it.
turn over to me. I figure you guys are pretty nice. And
And we mess up fine.
okay, good.
And it keeps the expectation.
Yeah.
How are you?
Good, how are you? Well, thank you so much.
Laura, I'm
Hey.
good.
No, I don't want to do this.
Covering today. So.
Can I just tell you, you're good at this.
Nice to meet you.
Nice to meet you.
You're kind of odd.
Hey, Herecacy.
And
Okay, if I
I'm a
say it
little
wrong,
uncomfortable.
Hey,
he's
Brooke,
sad.
I took her
Okay.
through it.
Here we go. We're up.
Yeah,
Hello.
my name's always mispronounced,
Yeah.
and mine's 4 letters, so
There you go.
You're all by yourself today.
you're fine.
No, she's in DC. My bag. That's what I'm looking for. Where's my stuff?
How are you,
How
Laura?
are you, Mayor?
Good, how are you doing?
Good, I get to cover today.
I am
so-
thrilled. I knew that you were going to do that.
Yeah, I just got back from Africa.
That's what I know. Everyone's going like, I hope she gets in. I said, we're going to have Brooke deputize.
Oh,
Yeah, all these things. And I know what's gone. And he looks at me and goes, well, you really can't do that.
on that board.
Yeah.
I'm kidding you.
When are you getting to DC? On that Sunday?
You were not now, but we were.
Are you excited?
I mean, it's up to you.
We now have something at Michael's office.
I was faithful for up until 2 weeks ago.
Do we meet with all our council people or all our?
We try.
Not
I'm
just,
just gonna
so you went
around.
to
No, I went to
Africa, but I mean, we were in Japan a while ago, and I thought,
I get invited. I'm on a.
I'm serious.
All right, everybody, how we doing? Okay, welcome. This is Committee of the Whole. We'll call to order. I need to excuse Councilmember Diane Turner. She will not be with us tonight, and she is excused. We will start with approval of the minutes. We have Committee of the Whole, January 18th, 2022, Committee of the Whole, February 1st, 2022, and our special meeting for District 5 interviews, which was February 1st, 2022. If there's any corrections, concerns, anything like that for any of those, and if not, I would take a motion for all three.
I would like to make a motion of the approval of the minutes for Committee of the Whole. Can we do all of them at once? Okay. Committee of the Whole, January 18th, Committee of the Whole, February 1st, and Special Meeting District Number 5 interviews, February 1st, 2022.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? No abstentions? Okay. We will start with our discussion items. First off, we have a radon project presentation by Eleanor Diver and Tanya Yu presenting. And they have half an hour. And if you guys want to come on up, whether you're more comfortable at the podium or the table, wherever you'd like to be. Might have to-
Oh, there we are.
There you go.
I'm sorry that Diane isn't with us tonight. It was her idea originally. And so hopefully she's watching online. Let us know, Diane, if you're there. Anyway, so Miss Vu contacted Diane and said, can I talk about a radon project for Murray City? And I said, hey, one of my really good friends runs the radon project for the state. And so we thought it'd be a great opportunity for both of them to come together and make the presentation. So Elle Diver and Tanya Vu, I'm handing it over to you guys. Welcome.
Okay, hopefully you can hear me okay. All right, so I am with the Department of Environmental Quality, and as Tammy mentioned, I'm the radon project coordinator for the state of Utah. So the best website, if you were interested in getting more information, would be radon.utah.gov. The goals of today's presentation will be what is radon, where does radon come from, radon levels in Utah and Murray, health effects of radon, how can you test your home? And I have 5 test kits here and also a flyer for you to fill out to get one sent to your home if you would like one. Action to take when you find that you have elevated radon levels, mitigation, and then also how could you increase awareness for Murray residents about radon? So let's start with the question of what exactly is radon? So radon is a cancer-causing radioactive gas. You can't see it, smell it, or taste it, but it might find its way into your home. It comes from the breakdown of uranium that's found in the soil. Uranium is naturally occurring in our soil and our rock. It breaks down into radium. This is what Madame Curie and her husband discovered all those many years ago. And then the radium breaks down into radon. And then that is the gas that gets into your home and we breathe in and is damaging to our lung tissue. Can any home have a radon problem? Yes, any home can. Even if you're slab on grade, you have a twin home, you don't have a basement, you're in a condominium, you're in a rambler, any type of home, as long as it has cement over any kind of soil or rock, you can have a problem. What is the safe level of radon? We never use the word safe when dealing with radiation, but the allowable level set by EPA is 4 picocuries. So radon in Murray, let's look. 1 in 3 Utah homes for the state of Utah have elevated radon levels. If we look at your zip code 84107, we can see that the state has 558 completed radon tests. So that's our data set for 84107 with an average of 3.3. But you can see that one person who tested had a 31 picocurie. So that's like smoking 3 packs of cigarettes every day. If we look at 84117, and I recognize you share this with Holiday, we have 715 radon test kits that are completed with an average of 4.3, but someone had a high of 86.1. Then 84123, you can see same thing, 613 with an average of 3.4 and the high of 33.5. It's really the high that, in my opinion, is the most critical and important part of the puzzle, because you just never know if your home is going to be the one that has that elevated radon level. So like I mentioned before, 1 in 3 homes have tested elevated for radon. Allowable level for humans is the 4 picocuries. Average radon level in Utah, we see at 5.3. Highest radon level that we've ever seen is in Beaver, and that was 664. And that was very close to where we have done uranium mining in the past. Wasatch County, that's our Heber area, we see really high levels. 10.2 is their average. Summit County, we also see higher levels, 5.3, Tooele 5.1, Utah County 4.6, Salt Lake 4.3, and Davis is at 4.2. This is another chart showing that in Emery County, we've only done 41 tests. We have a 3.8 average, but with a high of 28.8. I wanted to point out the Sandy and then also the Carbon County and Orem, because you can see that in those cities, we have seen 150.4 in Sandy, a 280 in Carbon County, and a 358.9 in Orem. So once again, I mean, it's those really high levels that make it important to need to test. So lung cancer has definitively been linked to radon exposure. It's the #1 cause of lung cancers among our non-smokers. You talk to the lung oncologists, they'll say they have a waiting room with 50% smokers, 50% non-smokers. Utah, in fact, has the lowest smoking rate in the nation, yet we still have the highest rates of lung cancer in our state as our death rate from cancers. And every year, 22,000 people die from radon-induced lung cancer in the United States. Usually we see it around 21 to 22,000, it's guesstimated. Every year in the US, we see 240,000 cases of lung cancer with 160,000 deaths, and as I mentioned before, the 21 to 22,000 deaths. So if we look at Utah's lung cancer rates, we can see that our rates are at 21.3 per 100,000, and the US rate is at 47.4. Smoking rates for Utah are the lowest, as I mentioned, at 9.5%. This is not including our vaping. If we look at that statistic, that would bump it up to probably closer to 13, 14%. You can see that Kentucky is quite high in comparison to us. A little bit about the history of radon. We discovered it because a gentleman by the name of Stanley Watrous, who was working at a nuclear power plant, he had just come to Pennsylvania to work at the nuclear power plant, was setting off the radiation monitors as he entered and exited the power plant. And they said, what on earth could possibly be going on? Went and figured there was no leak in the facility. So they went to his home with a Geiger counter and sure enough found very high levels, like in the thousands. And that's what they see in Pennsylvania. So they're a regulated state. Of course, we are not. So radon can enter your home in many ways. I have a couple of slides here to show those different cracks and crevices and spots that it will enter through. So any kind of crack or crevice in this cement slab, anywhere you have like plumbing in your tub or your shower where there's exposed dirt, that will be a direct correlation to getting into the home. Sometimes when our floor meets our walls, there will be a small crack and crevice, and it will find its way in. A water heater, heating system, fireplace, all kinds of different ways that the radon can enter. So we talked for a minute in the beginning about testing. Testing is easy and inexpensive. You can do it yourself. The cost for Utah residents, if they go to radon.utah.gov, is $11. It's available at most hardware stores for about $50, and that is because they also tack on a laboratory fee and then a shipping cost, and I've been able to reduce those costs for residents. During a real estate transaction, you'll probably use a home inspector who's certified to conduct radon tests, and that cost will be somewhere around $100 to $150. We're seeing that happen more and more in our real estate transactions. The very best time of year to test is in the winter months. And the reason for this is twofold. When our windows and doors are closed more, the radon is more apt to stay there and have high readings and breathe in more. And then also when the ground is frozen, the path is least resistance is in and through the home. So that is where the radon tends to find its way. Are short-term test kits reliable? I get this question a lot. We believe that they're very reliable. They're under strict scrutiny with the government and tests. And when I go out and test schools, we will use a variety of methods to test the schools. So we'll use what the home inspectors are using, the continuous radon monitors, and those are calibrated. We'll use blanks and duplicates as part of our quality assurance, meaning that we'll just open a test kit, put it in the envelope, send it in. We'll put 2 test kits side by side to make sure that they're within 0.5 picocuries of each other, and they are. And so from my experience, I would definitely say that they provide very good reliability on determining what the levels are in a home. Some families might look at their levels if they're right between that 3 to 6 picocuries and say, oh, I'm going to try a long-term test kit. And that is a great solution. So they can place the test kit for over 90 days and no longer than 365. And that really gives them a good average of what's happening both in the colder and warmer months within the home. Okay, so when you get your test kit and take it home with you tonight, and like I say, a couple of you might need to get it in the mail, this is what you're going to want to do. You'll want to, I'm going to move ahead and make sure I cover everything, but I like the visual better than just the instructions. So if you can put it directly in the middle of the room, that is ideal. Grab a TV tray, a nightstand, put it right in the center of the room, at least 3 feet from an exterior wall, 1 foot from an interior wall, and 20 inches above the ground, and not by a lot of books or other knickknacks or anything. Okay, any questions about that? And if you were to take this home and start it tonight, say for example, you would want to take that to the post office, has a little insulated envelope and a postage paid slip in there for you. You'd want to take that either Thursday afternoon right to the post office or Friday morning, because radon is time sensitive. And so it has a half-life of 3.8 days. So it's important once we collect it to take it directly to the post office. Okay, so what do we do if we have elevated radon levels? We can install something called a radon reduction system, also known as a mitigation system. And here you can see these drawings of what they'll put inside the home. They'll drill a 5-inch circular hole in the cement slab. Then with PVC piping and a fan, you'll see that they will pull that radon out from underneath that slab and pull it out to the outdoor air. We are seeing more often the fan on the outside of the home rather on the inside of the attic space. Tends to be a little bit more expensive if you go through the home because you need to then aesthetically do some repairs in the home to fix that. So we're seeing it more and more often on the outside. Just want to make sure that you're not putting it where you're trying to barbecue or have family gatherings because there is a little bit of a noise from that fan. The cost is about $1,500. You want to make sure you only use a certified radon mitigator, and I'm happy to help you navigate that. Or you can go to our website, the radon.utah.gov again. Okay, this just goes over what they do to put in a system. Now just looking at a couple of systems, which system would you prefer on your home and why? Let's see how much we learned here. I would want the one on the right side because, yeah, it doesn't have as many bends and elbows, right? It's going to be much easier for that fan to really pull that radon through the home. I mean, and so it makes it a better mitigation system ultimately. And I like to show that just as a reminder that if folks are getting them, they're thinking about, oh, what is going to be a good mitigation system? What is that going to look like? A couple more pictures of, I love the mitigation system on the right side there. You could put in some kind of a flowering bush. No one would even know it's there. On the side, it's on the side of the house. If you're having barbecues, it's not going to have any kind of an impact. The one in the upper left corner, I mean, that is a little bit closer to the barbecuing area, but same again, if you wanted to cover that up, you could. The noise isn't going to be so loud, but this is a manometer. This helps the resident know whether or not the system is working. If you go to buy a new home, you might run into this. I have lots of realtors come to my class and say, I went to show a home and found this and didn't know enough about it and decided I better come learn a little bit more about radon. So we want that off U shape to be happening like that to determine whether or not that system is working. Okay, so before I have a couple more things to talk about, but I wanted to make sure I fit this in. Actions that Murray could take, possibly place a flyer about radon in the utility bills. Along with that, we could host a radon awareness event. That's something we did with South Jordan, and it was super successful. We gave away 100 free test kits and did it in their, at their city hall, in their chambers, and had great success. Provide information to new homeowners, say during real estate transactions, provide that. Test schools in Murray every 5 years. That's something we did in Bluffdale when I presented to their city council. They said, can you come out and make sure all of our schools are tested? And if we find elevated levels, help us know the next step. Or one other, encourage building radon out during the construction process. And I'm going to talk just a little bit more about that right now. So one thing that we're seeing more and more, and we're very happy about it because it's a less expensive approach, is radon resistant new construction. And it is essentially building the radon out of a new home or building. Here is a slide of what that would look like. Oftentimes, they will build something called a passive system. So the fan won't necessarily be in the system initially, and then they'll put it in later. But we're seeing the builders understanding that people get confused. They assume they have a system, even if it's a passive system. So then they don't think they need to test. They don't determine that the levels are high. So just one more slide here showing what the corrugated pipe looks like, and that is how they build the system. So they lay this corrugated pipe, Then they'll put the pea gravel on and the slab, and then it will go up a pipe in the middle of the home and then attach to the fan. So, all right, thank you very much. I'll turn the time over to Tanya. Sure.
So thank you so much for just going over all that information. I think that'll really help us go over what I'll be talking about today. So this really was brought up to my attention in my environmental science class last year. We studied independent labs, and I really looked into radon because it's a problem that's really affecting all of Utah. And especially as more people are moving into this state, they may not be really aware of everything that's going on. So I think it's really important that we spread awareness and get all our citizens to understand the importance of just radon mitigation and the levels inside your home. So I conducted a countywide survey last spring with many participants from Murray, just because that's where I'm from, about the sociodemographic and the economic correlates of radon awareness in our county, just because I wanted a better understanding about the economic correlates of radon awareness and really what's just causing this lack of awareness that we could potentially see. So I got responses from about 170 respondents in a couple of weeks, and it showed that the vast majority of respondents heard about radon gas, but most people don't know the levels inside their homes. And it's really important that everyone understands how at risk their homes are and how at risk they are, just because you know, you could have really elevated levels and be at especially high risks. So yeah, a lot of respondents, and we really found that through multivariate regression, we found that respondents' awareness of the health effects of radon gas is highly correlated with whether respondents have taken a measure of radon gas in their homes before. So what we see through this is that mitigation is highly correlated with awareness. If people are aware about what radon is, they'll be most likely to take action. So what we want to do is to make sure everyone's aware about the dangers that radon presents to us. And besides that, I found that except for age and whether people have children at home, sociodemographic and economic correlates have really little statistically significant connections with the level of awareness. So there's no exact specific group of people that we should be targeting, spreading information to. It really should be just citywide and through everyone. So I really want to bring up a couple potential solutions the city could implement to these problems that I've found. And so firstly, there could potentially be a city radon awareness day where people potentially can pick up test kits and just get more information about what's going on. A second idea is just promoting more legislation to provide more easily accessible radon testing kits. And like the state of Utah has much more affordable ones, just spreading information about that and just utilizing the resources the state of Utah has provided for us, or even creating reusable ones. And we could potentially fund the library to purchase a few radon detectors that are reusable and have people place these in their homes for a couple of weeks just to get a better sense of their radon levels. And I brought one here with me today. These kits can be bought for maybe $130 off Amazon, and they're very reliable just for people to get a rough sense about what's going on inside their homes, and they're reusable as well. So multiple people will be able to use these kits. Thirdly, we could potentially highlight this in the city newspaper or mail out informational flyers along with the utility bills, like you mentioned. And then lastly, we could potentially post infographics around the city at places like the Park Center or the Murray Library, just so people just walking around these areas can get a better sense of what's going on. And I really think these potential hazardous effects of radon should be presented through schools. And with this, we can better educate the public about these problems. So I could potentially I'm hoping to create a short program and maybe go around to elementary schools to teach their 5th and 6th graders or other students potentially around the city about these issues. And I could also make informational flyers with them, and they can inform their parents, and they can be able to get their homes tested with that. And we could potentially coincide this with a Radon Awareness Day. So those are just a few ideas to just bounce around. But yeah, I really hope to for these like potential solutions to be considered. But just really thank you for listening to your constituents' voices and my voice and sharing my proposal here today. But that's it. So thank you.
Thank you so much. That was wonderful information. Yeah, we can give her a hand for sure. That was a wonderful presentation. Thank you. And thank you for your information. And I'm just very grateful for all of the different action items we can consider and see what fits. And that's so helpful. So we really appreciate that. Anything else? Last things? Okay, well, thank you. We so appreciate it. Such good information. And then next up, we will have Kim Sorensen with a discussion on an ordinance enacting section 12.24.175 of the Murray City Municipal Code, authorizing the mayor to establish certain parks and recreation related fees. Kim, you have 15 minutes.
I'll probably take 5.
You know, stroll through it, stretch it
Okay,
out.
I'll go real slow.
There we go.
So, as you mentioned, I'm here today to talk to you about an ordinance that will allow the mayor, along with communication from the Parks and Recreation Department and our advisory boards, to set certain fees within the Parks and Recreation Department for activities and facility rentals. Now, you may be wondering why I'm here and what we've been doing in the past. Well, this simply formalizes what we're already doing. And let me give you a little bit of background and examples of that. So there are fees within the Parks Department that are set by ordinance through the City Council. And those include golf fees, which we'll talk more about later tonight, park center fees, cemetery fees, and then the outdoor pool fees, which we'll talk more about in a couple of weeks. There's some fees that we charge that are not set under ordinance and with the City Council. And let me talk to you a little bit about those fees, and it would take all night to talk to you about every fee that we have. GL has a list of those, and I think even GL was shocked. So we have fees for recreation programs. Now, we do have a policy for our recreation programs, and this policy was enacted back in about 2008, then by Mayor Snar. And that policy states that for adult team sports, we charge 1.35% for each individual lane. And for youth sports, we charge 1.5% of direct fees. Now, when I say each individual, this covers direct fees, which are the cost of a recreation official, the cost of shirts, if we give it to the players, the cost of an award at the end of the season, and the cost of balls. But it doesn't include the cost of our full-time staff, the cost of our office and IT and trucks and different things. And that has worked out well for almost 15 years. So that's what we're following. There are other examples of fees that we're charging that we follow this guideline, included the outdoor pool. So the outdoor pool will have things like swim goggles and maybe some candy that we sell. Swim diapers. We sell swim diapers at the outdoor pool. Now, of course, if you think about a swim diaper and goggles, we realize that we're not trying to make a profit on these items. We want people to buy them. So some items like that we may sell at cost, simply because we'd rather sell a swim diaper to someone at the outdoor pool or the park center than have them not buy one because of the cost. The golf shop, the pro shop, sells shirts, golf clubs, golf balls, tees, etc. Now, how they set their prices with golf clubs, there's what's called a MAP guide, and I don't know what MAP stands for, but if we're selling, for example, Nike golf clubs, the Nike company doesn't want us selling golf clubs at a reduced price from what other areas sell them for. So they set at least the minimum price that we can charge for things like golf clubs. And now the shirts, the tees, the balls, there's a suggested retail price, and that's what we charge. The idea is not to make a profit, but to produce some revenue and of course to provide items that golfers need when they go golfing. Other areas, our amphitheater. We often sell concessions. We'll set prices for concessions there. Movies in the park, so we might set prices for movies in the park. Facility rentals. So facility rentals will include things like the pavilions, special events. If someone comes into the park and they want to have a 5K event, we'll try and at least cover the cost of our employees working that 5K event. It may be that we need an employee to work with them. It may be that they're asking for special items from the city, and we don't want to subsidize those types of events, so we'll set pricing so that we at least cover prices. You can see that, especially in today's world, prices are, well, they're not going like this, they're going up. So for us to come to the council every time we needed to set a swim diaper price or a pavilion price or we have a special event and they ask for water to fill a swimming pool. For us to come to you each time with that is impractical. So again, this formalizes what we've been doing. We always use our Park and Recreation Advisory Board, our division heads, and make sure that we're not trying to make a profit or gouging the public, and then at the same time that we're not subsidizing events that we shouldn't be subsidizing. So, questions?
I have a question. What with these limits or what you were talking about, at what point did you have to set them with the council? I guess
That's a great question. We can never have. So we were looking at some of our fees, and I was talking with GL months ago, and we realized as we needed to formalize what we're doing. We are not changing anything that we've done for forever. We are just simply formalizing a policy that allows us to do what we're already doing.
Okay.
Did that answer your question?
Yes, and then I have a follow-up to that. I guess and we did this quite a bit with the previous mayor, that we changed kind of our duties as a council to give authority to the mayor. But I do see in here that was kind of excluded, in that there are the main fees that would still come before the council. Is that correct?
They are. Everything that's already set by ordinance, those fees that I mentioned, the golf course, the outdoor pool, park center, cemetery, they remain. This does not change anything.
So this just gives you the flexibility to kind of mitigate some of those gray areas.
It's just, it is exactly. It is a gray area that hasn't been covered in the past.
All right. Thank you.
Sounds good. I don't want to micromanage swim diapers, but I am grateful you carry them. We purchased many.
You're welcome
over
to
the
call
years.
if you think they are too low or too high.
Thank you.
Thanks, council.
All right. Next up, we have a discussion on closing and vacating an alleyway located at 1 East, 4800 South. And this is Danny Astle presenting. It's Trey. Hi, Trey. That's okay.
Items 3 and 4.
Okay.
And I'm going to present these together just to avoid repeating myself. So they're
Sounds
kind of
good.
The same thing. So let me get connected here. And of course, it's on the opposite side. Oh, we got it. We got it. Well, thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to talk about two. There you go. Thanks. Thanks for the opportunity to be here tonight to talk about vacating two alleyways that are located at the new City Hall site. And really quick, I'd just like to introduce myself to the two new council members that I haven't had a chance to meet. I'm Trey Stokes. I'm the city engineer. And I'm here from time to time. I don't attend all the meetings, but I do present on occasion. So look forward to seeing you in the future. Back to the right-of-ways at the City Hall site. The City Hall site is made up of 24 separate parcels and two old alleyways and several old easements. As part of the redevelopment of the City Hall site, the engineering division has been tasked with a plat that consolidates these 24 parcels and two old right-of-ways. And the way we've done it is kind of whittled it down to 3 lots. One lot for the City Hall building, a lot for the east parking lot, and then lot 3 would be for the south parking lot. The alleyways that are there, they've got to be vacated to meet city requirements before we can record the plat. So the north alleyway, located a little closer to 4800 South, historically used to access interior properties and the old cell tower site, as well as utilities in the east-west direction. It's had a major power line. So with the site being redeveloped, the cell tower removed, the utilities removed from the site, no need to have access to any interior parcels. We need to vacate this right away. No use for it anymore whatsoever. The south alleyway, again, just because it's south of the north alleyway. But we didn't. It's not what these have ever been called. It's just a kind of a convention that we've put to them because they were unnamed. But this one's existed on county records for many years, but it has really not been used for access. It's been more used for utilities, utility poles, and some old telecom easements. So for the same reason, it's not being used. The utilities have been removed through redevelopment of the site. This alleyway really has no use whatsoever, and we need to get it vacated to continue to move forward with the platting process. So in next week's meeting, the March 8th meeting, I think, the Public Works Department will request that the City Council consider approving ordinances, and there will be 2 ordinances that close and vacate both the north and south alleyways so that we can move forward with the consolidation plat, to continue with the cleanup work on the site. That's kind of what we're doing, assembling these parcels, cleaning up the easements, cleaning up the right-of-ways, hopefully getting that done in the next few months. So any comments or questions? I know I've gone fast, and I definitely didn't take my 30 minutes. No, never planned to take 30
You
minutes.
didn't,
So
no.
I would bore everybody to death if I took 30 minutes.
Any questions? Okay, doesn't look like we have any.
Okay, great.
So I guess you're
will-
off the hook.
I will look forward to seeing you next Tuesday.
We'll see you there.
So,
Thank
unless
you.
I can talk Danny into it.
You know, good. Best of luck. Best of luck. All right. Next up, we have discussion on MCCD design guidelines, and I've got Jared on here. It looks like Zach is joining him.
I'm gonna be moral support.
I love that.
Yeah. Yeah, just
In
that.
there.
Oh,
into that.
okay. You're on the right track. It's usually a lot harder news. It's a lot harder to digest.
Okay, that's fine. I'll take it.
I do that every single week. Every single
Now, I'd like to say that I won't take 30 minutes, but I have a feeling that we'll be able to talk. Okay, perfect. So yeah, this is a couple of you have heard this a few times, a couple times anyway, about the MCCD repeal and replace of the potential design guidelines in the zone in the MCCD zoning district. This is a request from staff that we would be looking at. This really came about as part of the 2019 rewrite of the MCCD zone. And then we presented it, I believe, early in 2020. And then the moratorium happened. And so there were some changes to the MCCD since then. We didn't really touch anything in the design guidelines at this point. So this is really to introduce them to the two new council people and to kind of give you guys a background on that again, give you a refresher. So we will move on. So as you guys might know, the MCCD zone is located approximately on 4800 South, pretty much from, I can't even think of that street now, Box Elder to to Center Street, sorry. And then also like this site, the current City Hall is also within. That's the, you can't see my mouse. Let me do this. Okay, so this is this current City Hall site here. So it does go down just a little bit as well. So the purpose of the MCCD zone is envisioned as the commercial and civic and cultural center for the community, for the entire city, and is intended to enhance the physical, social, and economic connections by redeveloping downtown Murray. So these regulations and design guidelines of the MCCD are intended to promote mixed-use development, encourage that pedestrian-oriented design, promote development opportunities, and increase residential and commercial densities. The anticipated development model promotes sustainable mixed-use transit-oriented uses with neighborhood-oriented commercial, restaurant, civic, cultural, and residential spaces to promote street life and activity. So that's outlined specifically in the MCCD code as the purpose of the entire zone. So we used that as part of our guiding principles going forward. That was included in that. So specifically, the design guidelines back in before 2019, before the zone was rewritten, it stated there was some conflicting language. There was the Murray City Council shall adopt the Murray City Center District guidelines, and property located within the MCD shall be developed in conformance with the provisions set forth in the chapter. That was kind of conflicting. That kind of gave an initial message of these needed to, that the design guidelines almost became standards almost. And so when we rewrote the MCCD zone, or when Jared rewrote the MCCD zone, these instead needed to become true guidelines, which is to actually be consulted, but not necessarily follow to the T. These are aspirational goals and things that we can take to the development community and have a discussion with them with, what the city would like the downtown to look like, and opportunities for that to continue in that process. So, what are design guidelines? Design guidelines are a set of discretionary statements. That's the important word there, is discretionary. Whereas development standards are a set of threshold requirements. So can you guys think of what like a development standard would be? Yes, precisely. Yes. So heights, setbacks, parking requirements, things like that. Those are development standards, and where design guidelines allow us to help guide people. That's why guide is in the word. So looking at these were a couple, this is an example of design guidelines. I apologize, Jared put these slides together over a year ago, so I don't know where these are from. Probably somewhere in California by the, yeah, there you go. But it kind of, as you can see, it touches on elements, so design projects to enhance the visual appearance of the street and district in which they are located. They're very kind of vague, and they're intentionally meant to be vague. They're not supposed to give out exact numbers, because then you would be going into that standard territory. So, and then here's an example of development standards. Just like Councilman Martinez said, driveway widths, building heights, setbacks from the street, things like that. Those are really what are required. So what we did from here is we knew that we needed to take back the design guidelines and really look at them differently. The current guidelines that are adopted don't really fit in with the new written code. They have more shall statements, and for example, they have lead requirements, because back in the day we were requiring that part of the MCCD zone have lead certification. That was taken out. So there's a whole lead section, a lead requirement section that outlines that. So what we really did was look at the general plan, because as the mayor would be, as would remember, and Councilman Turner, back when we were developing the general plan, there were a lot of public outreach. There were events. There were, I think, 3 or 4 open houses, including, the adoption process, which would be, the typical planning commission meeting, city council meeting. There were focus groups. So we felt like the general plan is really where we should start, because we feel that's where it had the most public involvement. So from that, we distilled 5 shared values, which is kind of what the whole guiding principle of this is. So we came up with authentic, active, inclusive, multimodal, and connected. Each of these have statements that were included in the design guidelines. So authentic means, we're not just developing forgive me if you're fans, but a City Creek Center. We're not developing a fake downtown. And we're not, we want to have an active downtown, somewhere that is, lively 24 hours a day, 7 days a week. Inclusive, meaning everybody feels safe and comfortable coming into into the downtown. Multimodal, pretty self-explanatory. We want to prioritize the pedestrian and bike community, as well as keep cars, moving throughout the downtown as well, but also increase that pedestrian and cyclist population. And then connected, that was a really big one for me, is that not just physically connected, but connected culturally and those things as well. So we worked on creating these new guidelines, modeling them after ones that we've researched in the past. Again, I think this one was in Dallas. I think somewhere in Texas, I think, where it was just a single page. We wanted to simplify it because currently the design guidelines were multiple pages, just outlining things that was really hard to read, really hard to interpret. So we really tried to streamline that. Process in the MCCD in general, a pre-application conference with the planning division staff. So that would mean like a developer would come forward and meet with us as the planning division and discuss what they would like to do with their project. This is oftentimes when we go and discuss with them what the design guidelines have in them, what the standards are, things like that. And then they would apply for a design review approval. That would then go to the MCCD review committee and be reviewed by that committee, who would then make a recommendation to the planning commission. And the planning commission would make the final decision at the public meeting after taking in public comment and things like that. So in order for the planning commission to give design review approval, they have to determine the following few bullet points, that it's conforming with the general plan. If there's any specific area plan, which we don't currently really have in the area, that it conforms with the requirements of the land use ordinance, does not jeopardize the health, safety, or welfare of the public, and is in harmony with the purpose of the MCCD zone and adheres to the principles of the design guidelines. Those principles would be those shared values of those 5 connected, active, multimodal, things like that. So I'll get into the specifics of the design guidelines at this point. So they are broken up into 4 sections, which is district-wide, development site. I forget which order I go. I think it's district-wide, then public spaces and streetscape, development site, and then architectural. If I'm wrong, I'm sorry. So we'll start with district-wide. So this would apply to, the entire MCCD zone. So for example, there's sustainability. So like I had mentioned in the past, the sustainability used to require third-party certifications. It's not required anymore. We do want to focus on, conservation, stormwater, energy efficiency, low impact development, things like that. So specifically guideline 3, it's creating resiliency within the core of the city. So identify locations on key corridors that would benefit from landscape medians. For example, there's already a landscape median in Vine, pretty close to State Street there. Could that possibly be expanded on in the future? Not necessarily, but I mean, that's something to look at. Also providing, giving ideas to reduce the urban heat island effect. The urban heat island effect means that, a lot of times the urban area is a lot warmer than rural areas. So how can we reduce that passive heat that's coming off of buildings and things like that? A lot of times, especially nowadays, people paint their rooftops white. Commercial buildings paint their rooftops white. That reflects the sun more, provides less heating. Asphalt is very well known to absorb that heat and then pass it on at night and keeps that as a warmer, it just increases the temperature there. So I will move on to, cool, I did go the right direction. So public spaces and streetscape. So street trees, guideline 4 is streetscape. We're talking about street trees here. There is already a requirement for street trees to be in there as a development standard. However, we want to encourage people that less or more is better. We would like to see more street trees than the code requires. I think that helps with the urban heat island effect. These one thing I want to get into is that all of these shared values and a lot of these guidelines are they're connected in various ways. So, street trees can help with the urban heat island effect. They can provide that shading in the summer. However, they can allow sunlight in the winter because sunlight's getting through those tree branches. So along with the streetscape area, broad sidewalks with weather protected seating, wayfinding and signage and lighting. We saw that. I know the three of you were on the walking tour in Sugar House, that they actually had, it was kind of old, but they still had wayfinding areas. And that was one of the things I called out, is that down the road, we need to encourage getting some signage put into the MCCD zone. Also, curbside management, as deliveries continue to increase, DoorDash, Amazon deliveries, we need to have a curbside management system. I know that would make Trey's life a lot easier if we're able to manage those curbs a little bit better. Loading zones, unloading zones, things like that. So we'll move on to the development site, which includes circulation, open space, active buildings, parking, neighbor awareness, and meaningful light. So this is going to be tailored to an individual site. Obviously, that's why it says development site. But so for example, the one highlighted here is the hotel on Vine Street and State Street. So these are guidelines that would apply to that site, not the building itself. So for example, open space. So ensure that there are opportunities for parks and open space opportunities and new developments. Over here on the right, this is a very walkable neighborhood, but it's closed off to anybody that doesn't live in that apartment complex. But you can see it. So one of the things points out: avoid private open spaces and elements that exclude the public. It's great to see that, and it kind of bums you out when you're walking down the road and you see a cool little alcove in, and you look and you're like, oh, you can't see it, but there's like a little fountain in there and seating and things like that. It's really cool. But you can't get to it unless you have a code. So we want to encourage, so if a developer comes to us with a residential project or something, we can say, hey, the guidelines say you shouldn't close this off. This should be open to the public. That helps us kind of provide that feedback instead of, and it gives us that backbone in order to do it, to go back to those adhering to the design guideline principles. Another one that's specific in here is the parking element. So locating bike racks close to building entrances. So we do have a requirement for bike racks to be in the MCCD zone, but we don't tell them where to place them in the standard. So this guideline allows us to say, oh, you've put it up against your property line behind a wall, like the Vine, for example. I was able to negotiate with them and tell them, put these up closer to the entrances to your site, or to the commercial areas. This is going to be more helpful than just located some rando place. And then provide distinctions between the primary parking entrances and service entrances. So one thing I think you'll notice when we were on our Sugar House tour, this was that street that was where we kind of were at the top and we ended up walking down. There were I think there was maybe one service entrance there. The rest of it was retail facing, or retail faced the street. It allowed for people to actually walk and feel comfortable in that area without, a bunch of trucks moving in and out of that. So sometimes it's going to be unavoidable, but in other times it helps us kind of say, where, another example for, if somebody were coming in with a residential project, we could state to them, don't put in where your moving trucks are going to go right in that front area, put it behind the building or something, so we have better access and people feel more comfortable. Okay, last one. So architectural. So these do not spell out specific materials. These are just ideas. So design for potential, connection to the ground and sky, fenestration and porosity. You guys are probably burned from that word because I used fenestration and porosity a lot in that walking tour. express a clear organizing idea, private space, and materiality. So, design for potential. This is, I didn't get to talk a lot about it on the walking tour, but for example, this building here on the left is currently can be used as a residence right now, but it has been designed in height and in materiality that allows it to be converted into a commercial space in the future. So it has those, I think it's 12-foot height ceilings, things, and we would really like to see that in the future because as the downtown develops, there could be opportunities for housing in the area that could convert into commercial spaces. Let's see. Fenestration and porosity. You'll probably remember in the walking tour these two pictures right here. I kind of pointed out this mid-block crossing. That's porosity. It allows connection throughout a block. And then fenestration is windows through a building, being able to see inside. You know, the owner or the renter of the building can see in outside. The person walking by can see. Sorry, I got that mixed up. The person walking by can see inside, and the person operating their business can see outside. It provides that level of safety that there are eyes on the street. That's a big planning term, that there are eyes on the street. That makes people feel safe, and that they are welcome in this area, that when they're walking through there, it's not just a dead space where they could be harmed. Because subconsciously, this is just getting into weird sociological stuff. When you're not, we as humans are constantly looking for escape routes or ways to be able to feel safe. And having those eyes on the street gives us a level of safety that we can then turn and, be more comfortable in a space. So all of that, and I'm happy to go through any questions and everything, but we do believe that the proposed guidelines have been considered based on previous planning efforts within the downtown. The proposed amendment is necessary to comply with the land use ordinance that was amended in 2019 and then again in 2021. And they are consistent with the goals and initiatives in the general plan. We find that the proposed amendment will provide city and the development community clear guidelines for new development in the downtown. And then the Planning Commission voted to forward a recommendation of approval for the MCCD design guidelines in November of 2020. So with that, we are recommending that the City Council repeal and replace the Murray City Center District design guidelines as proposed. So I just kind of whirlwind that. So we can get into any questions you want, and I'm happy to answer them.
Of course, I have a ton of questions. Can you talk a little bit about what's in code now and what changes will be changed within this, or if there are any, and what you foresee changing within MCCD? So,
currently right now, we don't have any proposed changes in the code itself. And so these design guidelines are meant purely as kind of an addendum, a way for us to take what we believe as what the community has saw. We distilled what the community thought through those five, those 5 shared values. And we took those, created design guidelines from those to meet those 5 shared values, to help the development community feel comfortable and have a sense of direction. So what we're proposing now, this is really to help staff and the development community make sure that we get to that point that it states in the general plan, that it states, earlier in the 5 shared values, that we get to that walkable community and that cultural and cultural hub for the community, for the city writ large. So that's what these really help us do.
Okay. I know I killed the bill the last time around, and the main reason for that was the lack of outreach to the community and the community feeling like they had no insight, no value for themselves in participating in this process. I appreciate it coming back in this new term or in the new, leadership, but I still am getting emails about that. I'm still getting those concerns. And what I think have been on that walking tour, it was insightful. I want to say completely that I trust this process, but there's still a lot of questions. And I think I have more questions now than originally stated in my, because I live on Center Street. I
Yeah.
am one of those homes on MCCD, and there's some great advantages to that. And then there's also some great disadvantages. So I really want to say, I think we're in the right step. I think what have been at the state capitol, what the biggest push is, even from state legislators, even in the bills that are coming down the pipe, is that community input, is the public support and the public outreach. And if we don't have community buy-in, then we're failing our community. And I think MCCD is a big question. In our last workshop, Kat stated, well, we're going to come back and do a workshop on that, and then we're here again. So I want to make sure before we move forward that we're taking in consideration the public and their voice within MCCD, as it didn't feel, even within those 5 guidelines,
Sure.
we still had a lot of questions even with that. And we've changed them and we've adjusted them, but I think we need to have a little bit more of a humanistic approach in saying, okay, let's just kind of come back, and maybe it's a better understanding. Maybe it is a workshop. Maybe it is, let's sit
Can
down.
I jump in on the workshop just real
Yeah.
quick? Because the workshop is for the code. Like that's what we were going to come back for. So I just wanted to clarify what I had intended with that comment, that we'll come back with the code. But the guidelines are not something that's followed to the T. And was it the guidelines that you said had how many public meetings?
Oh, so
That's
it was the general plan that had us, that we informed from. Those had lots of meetings, four open houses plus the public process and the focus groups.
But so you used all that
and a
public
community
input
survey.
to build this.
So yeah, we took what was laid out in sorry, I'm going to fly through this backwards here. So we took, for example, this initiative 1 city center within the code, and I literally took out words. I printed this out and cut out the word. With paper, I'm cutting out the words. I still have them. Yes. And yes, Jared, I made Jared go through them.
Manipulate little tiny pieces of paper.
Yes.
Love the high school approach.
Yeah, exactly.
I
Because
mean, I'm the same way.
yeah, I mean, I went through, because you're seeing things like geared toward creating a core district at the city center. Throughout the public involvement process, people expressed a desire for cultural and social events within their own community. A city center district can be the social and economic heart of the city. And that's, we're taking those types of words. And I took that element of the general plan and not just that element, I took all of it. As you can see, initiative number 5, a city geared toward multimodality. That's immediately taken from the general plan into these 5 shared values of multimodal.
But since even the general plan, we've had a lot of contention.
I agree.
and so I'm not saying let's not, but I think we need to hold off. And I think what we actually need to do is change the code so that the guidelines meet the code. And the guidelines right now, if we go into this route, we have guidelines that are kind of broad, and we end up with a project like Vine again within the code. But we do need to sit down and look at the code, which we have a survey for block 1. It's been very specific that it's just block 1, but we can do sub-surveys, and we can look at those sub-surveys even for MCCD. But we need to look at the code and change the code so that it matches what we've talked about and that walkability and creating that, because I think we also need to define what we do with parking, and we need to define how we protect those neighborhoods surrounding MCCD, whether it be a radius, and we don't have any of those definitions within the guideline.
Right, exactly.
So
And
I guess that's where
Sure.
my hangup is maybe we do need a workshop for the code and then come back to the guidelines.
sure. And so what I would kind of mention right now is that there are guidelines currently adopted that are
Or not.
that
That's what I
don't
was gonna
match the
ask.
current code. And so, you know, I'm not telling you how to vote or anything or whether we bring this forward or whatever, but I think it would be, in my opinion, I feel that it would be more appropriate to adopt guidelines that are starting to head that way. And we can always change and amend and do that through this process, through while you're redoing the code. We can take these and change design guidelines as we go forward. But right now, for example, I have a developer that's asking me questions about a site in the MCCD. And he's like, okay, well, besides the code, what else is there? I said, well, there
We have
are
these
these design
old-
guidelines, but they don't really match. They don't correlate to what we have. Like I said, we have a whole chapter on LEED certification, and
Which can we even legally tell them they have to do that?
not anymore. In the code,
They have to.
they kind of did. And it was weird. It was awkward.
So let me ask you this clarifying question.
Sure.
What happens with the MCCD Design Review Board? Because in the guidelines, isn't that kind of removed, or?
No, the design guidelines does not change. It is not a statutory. Is that the right word? Yeah, please.
Yes,
Sorry.
please.
That was the purpose of the process slide, because there was some discussion of that back in 2019. The design review committee, now they're called the review committee. We'll be talking about that later tonight. That review committee is still in place. It hasn't actually had any action items, I think, since we made the changes to the design guidelines, or since we proposed these changes. So it hasn't been an issue heretofore. But Zach's 100% correct on two counts. There's kind of two things going on in my mind. Number one, these guidelines that we've proposed are matching. They correlate better to the MCCD as it's written right now, to that code as it's written. They were written to do that based on those changes. It took the better part of that year in 2020 to get them ready. Zach worked really hard on them all through the year and gave me lots of little cutout pieces of paper to try to read and manipulate with my sausagey fingers. But we got through all of that and made those proposals. And so it does match better. And he's right. We can always make those adjustments as we go forward, making changes to that code, to the MCCD code itself, to the development standards like we talked about, and make sure that they continue to match. And we can even look at enhancing them and making them more specific. To be clear, we like them the way they are. I prefer the guidelines to be really simple and broad, and they're not hammering anybody. The guidelines, the way they're written, are not going to mess up anybody's development review application as it comes through, and they're not going to hang anything up, because they don't have to be adhered to directly. They're just guiding principles, right? And even with the existing guidelines, they're still guiding principles. There was that conflicting language Zach mentioned. We didn't make people adhere to things in the guidelines that were not already part of the development standards in the code as well. And we wouldn't do that now. It wouldn't be right. With all of that said, so we'd be happier if they were all matching and we were changing things going forward. But we've been on pause on them for a long time. So if there's not a level of comfort, it's not the end of the world for us. We'll keep processing things. And the review committee is still functioning.
Like I said, I don't think we're not there. I think it's just seems like a level of trust from the community
Sure.
is still feeling like, well, obviously they don't care about our voice.
Well, and this
And I-
survey might.
And
Be a good place to start.
maybe the survey might clarify that.
It might start to bring that
And
forward.
so my biggest fear for them is, and even for living in MCCD, is that we have this developer come in and we get another Vine project, and it's not meeting the values of what citizens want. And I know you guys are the gatekeepers, and I know you guys foresee it, and I do trust in your vision because we've had that conversation. I just think right now we're kind of in this weird position where the MCCD guidelines currently don't match, but how many projects have been able to move forward with them or without? And within those guidelines, we still, I mean, anybody can come now and we can have another vine project. I do know that. And with that height density. So
I'll get exactly to your point. So right now, under the current design guidelines, like I wouldn't be able to take all these things that I've talked to you about and apply them. Like I can do it myself as working with them offline in my professional capacity, but I can't go back to somebody and say, these design guidelines say that you should be meeting one of these 5, or, all of these 5 things. I can't take that forward right now because that's not in the current design guidelines. And so that's where I think my hope is that they could go forward, because I can take this this project that's very early, and I can say, hey, you need to look at this and make sure that they meet these things and not the old things, the old things that were in the previous design guidelines. Because either way, we have to evaluate the project to a degree against the development standards with information provided through those design guidelines, either the old ones, which are adopted now, or these new ones.
right.
Yeah, so that's the hard part.
Gary's
Yeah.
been wanting to speak for a minute. if you
Oh,
can hop in
sorry.
for a
So
Oh,
with
sorry.
guidelines, they're just guidelines though. So they do not, you could approve something without following the guidelines. Is that correct?
That's yes.
If it's not in the actual statute. I'm trying to get to, because we had a big training on this and what's in the code, what can we say
Right.
yes and no to. This is not one of the districts like VMU, CMU that has to come back to us for the site plan agreement. Is that correct?
Necessarily. There are projects in it that in this zone, there are projects that would come to you with a master site plan agreement, larger than 3 acres, et cetera.
Okay.
Smaller projects like the Vine would not have. It's small enough that it wouldn't have gone.
So
through
that
master
may be
site.
something we want to think about, possibly, is because this is such an important area. Is this an area that we want to have kind of that next level of, say, it's something we talked a little bit about. And then just to double click on the lead piece, we can't do that because of state law. Is that right? Why we can't require lead?
It was removed from the code.
But it's something we could put back in? Or would we see state?
Not
I think it was,
It
wasn't it
was-
intended for historical properties?
not necessarily.
We had a
no.
requirement that the city would comply. We didn't require private business. We
Okay.
encouraged it,
Okay.
but we didn't require.
I think there wasn't there a lead neighborhood development requirement type thing that the entire area would have been
long
done?
ago.
Okay. Yeah, but those are currently in the design guidelines. The support for those are in design guidelines.
Not in the new ones. Sorry.
Right. Not in the new ones, in the old
So
ones.
I have 2 more questions. I don't know if Pam wanted to.
Oh, no, go ahead.
So my last question is, there is a part in here about the historical kind of, referencing historical, and I go back and forth because I love historical sites, and I think everybody has such a heart for Holiday, but I feel like just putting a placard on a street is kind of saying we gave up. If we can maybe look at that a little bit more in detail. I mean, that's something, for instance, I would like to reconsider about the guidelines, and kind of just look at that a little bit more, and maybe bring in those individuals or someone to kind of lead out on that, because I think we can give it. What I really loved on the walking tour was this connectivity of historical statues within the city.
Mhm.
And I think that is something beautiful that we can bring, versus just like, here's something on the ground that you may or may not see.
Sure.
And I know they do it in New York. I know it's something that is in other larger cities and urban areas. And I think maybe that's great, but maybe we add another element. And then lastly is you mentioned a little bit about the development standards and the development guide standards. Can you kind of just emphasize a little bit more
sorry, that was probably a miscommunication on my end. There's development standards, which are those heights, setbacks. Those are development standards, and those are completely separated and are codified, which means that you shall follow those rules. The design guidelines are discretionary. That helps us go back to a proposed development and say, this is where the city council, the community has said, this is what this should start to feel like. So, and we can then as staff push back on a developer a little bit more. It gives us a better way to push back on them, but it does not stop them if they decide to come back and say, I meet the development standards, therefore you shall process this application. They could go forward with a negative recommendation from the MCCD review committee. And then it would be ultimately up to the planning commission and say, you didn't address any of this or look at any of this. So it's technically still an administrative decision and they would probably still have to approve it. But at least with design guidelines, we can go back and say, this is what the community says they feel this area should start to look like. And that's what's different from a guideline and a standard. Completely severed, nothing connected.
Thank you.
Yeah.
Gary, did you have something?
I was just going to read it. If it's not in the code, then I mean we have to remember that. Well, unless it's codified, there's nothing we can do about it. So, GL, I'm going to keep hammering that home. That's our biggest takeaway.
Pam, do you have anything else? No. Okay, I just want to say thank you for bringing all of the different pieces and tying them in also with our walking tour, which again, thank you for organizing, was so helpful. I was grateful you just pointed out the wayfinding signs because that was one of my favorite things to see. I just think it brings such a sense of place and is so nice. Do I think that this could be improved after the survey? Of course, everything can always be improved. I think this is a crucial tool for our employees to help developments be the best they can be today. And I look forward to our survey results. I want our residents to feel heard. I want to hear what they have to say. I want to do a deep dive workshop where we look at that area and that code, and maybe from there, relook at the guidelines. But I think the best thing we can do right now is move the guidelines forward so that we're not stuck in something that's not appropriate or even the best fit, even if it's not a perfect fit right now. I just think it's a great tool. And I think there's a lot of important things in there that's not being communicated and should be able to be. So
I don't remember who said it, but there was somebody that said, don't let perfect stand in the way of good. So I think that is well said. That's just kind of my last thing. In the interim between this, if any of you have questions about what the old guidelines said or what the new guidelines say, I'm happy to talk with any of you at any time. We're more than welcome to do that. So
thank you both. All right, next up, looks like you don't get to leave.
Yes, I do.
Oh, you do. Bye,
I'm
Zach.
gonna feel the moral
All
support.
right, discussion on a zone map amendment for property located at 6560 South, 130 West. And now we have Jared and Susan.
Hello again.
Hello.
So a couple weeks ago, the City Council reviewed a text amendment to amend the R210 code to allow twin homes as a permitted use. Oh. Sorry, should I start over? That's much better. A couple weeks ago, City Council reviewed and adopted an amended code to our R210 zone that allowed twin homes as a permitted use. That application was initiated from J&G Investments, and J&G Investments with the intent of developing some property to have twin homes. So this application is part 2 of that. It's a zone map amendment for the property at 6560 South, 130 West, from R18 to R210. The property actually does not have any frontage on Jefferson Street and is accessed off of Fayette Avenue and has the approximate address of 6560 South, 130 West. It is a 1.46 acres vacant And the property that's in front of it on Jefferson Street has a non-conforming single-family home and a duplex that have been there for many years. Here's some a couple of photos that were taken during the summertime, as you can tell. Vacant field, lovely. The basic, so I'm going to go over just the basic differences between the R18 and R210. R18 is 8,000 square foot minimum lot size. R210 is 10,000 with 5,000 per dwelling. If you remember, the property splits in half of a twin home and they are individually owned. The structure height is the same, 35 feet. Front and rear setbacks are similar, 25 feet. The side yard setbacks have a 2-foot difference. The R18 has a total of 20 feet between the two sides, and the R210 has a total of 18 feet. So 8 and 10 total for the R210. Corner side yard setbacks are the same, and the parking requirements are the same for dwellings. The difference here, bottom line, is the R18 and R210 have very similar uses that are currently allowed. Single-family homes, residential facilities for persons with disabilities, and residential facilities for elderly persons, charter schools, public schools, churches, and playgrounds. The difference is R210 allows 2-family dwellings, duplexes, and recently approved and adopted is the 2-family dwelling for twin homes and also retirement homes. That is the difference. Our general plan and future land use map call for this area to be low density residential as shown on the map. This is a map from our general plan and future land use map. So R18, R16, A1, R112, R110, and R210 are all designated as residential low density in the general plan, chapter 5. This area is also, about a year ago, the city council adopted a Fashion Place West small area plan. That was a survey study done by an independent consultant that came up with 4 different categories of this area. And this particular area is in the sub area number 1 for established residential areas. And part of that study is calls for a variety of housing. And twin homes is another one of those varieties of housing that the city would allow if the code was approved. Did I miss anything on that?
That sub area 1 is just identified to stay basically the same, but where there are opportunities, increase the density very slightly in context sensitive ways. We feel like this does that.
Thank you. So the Planning Commission reviewed this zone change request on January 6th of this year, and we had 61 notices mailed out to all the adjacent property owners and affected entities. The Planning Commission did vote 3-2 to send a positive recommendation to the City Council. The findings for this proposal are the general plan does allow for flexibility in implementation and execution of the goals and policies on individual circumstances. Number 2, the requested zone change has been carefully considered based on the characteristics of the site, the surrounding area, and the policies and objectives of the 2017 Murray City General Plan and the Fashion Place West Small Area Plan, which I just mentioned. The proposed zone map amendment from R18 to R210 is supported by the general plan and future land use map designation of the subject property, and the Planning Commission voted 3-2 to forward recommendation of approval on January 6th. Staff is recommending that the City Council approve the zone change as requested from R18 to R210 for the property at 6560 South, 130 West. I did have a couple more little comments about that. In 2007, we adopted the R210 zone. And at that time, we had a lot of non-conforming properties that were annexed in from the county into Murray. At that time, we thought that the R210 would really take off and would be one zone that was implemented extensively. To date, there's only one property in the city that has the R210 designation. And probably the main reason it has not been adopted is because of this particular issue with the twin homes. The owner-occupied the ability to own separate, your own dwelling as opposed to a rental for a duplex, which is why we did the text amendment last month. So we believe that this will probably be much more utilized from here on with the new amendment. And I am happy to answer any questions you might have.
I had a citizen that got a hold of me this morning, and I talked to Zach about it. And his conversation I got out of it was sidewalks, because there are no sidewalks over in that area, and that is my district. And walking it, there is no sidewalks. And he's concerned with these twin homes that there's going to be more traffic. And
Okay, good
So-
questions, great questions. So the city's master transportation plan calls for this area, Jefferson Street and Lisa Ray Cove, to have sidewalks implemented, installed, and the existing ones that are smaller in width, like 4 feet, that they be widened. But that's in the phase 2 of the master transportation plan, which does not kick in till about 2031 to 2040.
Right.
Unless for some reason it's the political will or the administration wants to see that pushed forward. So that is kind of in the plan, but it is 10 to 20 years out. Again, well, part of the reason for that too is it does require acquiring property that is owned by the residents there along the frontage. The city has never taken property.
Yeah.
It's always bought at a fair appraised value and is typically negotiated, but they are definitely compensated for that. But so it is a lot of moving parts that would be involved with that, but that is on the radar. This particular property that we're talking about tonight, though, would not fall into that category because it would, if it was zoned, if the zoning was changed to R210, it would have to come back to the Planning Commission for a subdivision approval. And the subdivision regulations do require that curb gutter sidewalk and possibly park strip be installed with that subdivision. And so this one would have the curb gutter sidewalk and possibly park strips.
I just like the idea that it's an investment.
Yes.
And
It
we're
is.
just not renting something, but it's an investment for these people, for any age.
And we like that too about the R210 and the twin homes as well. But then also to that point about the Jefferson Street sidewalks, and like Susan was mentioning, master transportation plan phase 2, but the Fashion Place West small area plan called that out as one of its major tenets and said this area lacks infrastructure. It's been neglected for lots of years. So anything that, if Susan mentioned political will, and we would throw our weight, because we have a lot of pull as the planning division, we would support bringing that into an earlier phase. If as development starts to happen there and it's needed, we want to see it happen. You're going to see a subdivision going in there soon. Did the planning commission approve that the other night? It's a blur in my head, but there was a subdivision approved not long ago that's going to add some sidewalk to Jefferson, just a little section that we can get. If we can connect more and more and more over the years, that's what we want to see. But we typically only do it when there's development.
Okay.
But at some point, it might be something that we could do. We could do a special improvement district and start to get this done. But it's a bigger question than just this zone change.
And I know you probably don't know the answer to this, but was there sidewalks there? Because he said the gentleman that I talked to this morning said there was sidewalks there before, and then they got rid of them.
On
and I'm going,
Jefferson?
I
On
don't-
Jefferson?
I
I don't think so, but
no, Jefferson, there was never sidewalks. Okay.
no. But with the new
Yes.
subdivision that
Wait,
just
I
got
have one.
approved,
We
wouldn't
don't
have.
usually remove sidewalks as a practice,
know.
right?
And then
Right.
when he said that, I'm going,
Looking at Danny. Like, we
Did,
don't do
did that answer your question?
okay.
Great question, Pam.
So I have two things that come to mind. One is approving this to go to the R210. It does allow them to do duplexes though as well, right? Because that is within the code if they were to change their mind and choose that. So just something to
Yes.
keep in mind. It does allow for duplexes.
Which I would not be.
Right. But we once we move this zoning,
I know.
we
Which
agree to
I
it.
would not be happy with, and
The other-
can we go to the developer?
Yeah,
And
right.
We just
The other piece I want to
whatever it
just
is-
ask on, why were there two dissents? on the planning commission? Do we know why they dissent?
Good question. We had several of the neighbors come out, and
I saw there lots of comments.
yeah, the meeting, to be honest, was a little chaotic because at that same meeting we talked about the text amendment for the R210s to
Okay.
allow twin homes, and this zone change. And to be honest, it got convoluted between the two. So lesson learned was we separated them and brought them to you separately, to help just kind of keep things more on target of what they are. The zone change separate, the text separate. So it did get a little convoluted, to be honest.
And so in the end, some of those members that voted agreed with the citizens ultimately around a part. It got muddled enough that they decided this is not what we need. Because how often is it that we see a decision like that come out of the commission?
Not very often.
Okay.
I have a question. What is the new zone for just twin homes? Is it under the RM? There isn't one.
It was just
Okay, so it
added.
was just added.
Added
Oh,
as a
okay.
use.
If there is
That's
one,
what I
this is
was-
the one. This is
Okay.
the one.
This
Yeah.
is the one.
So it could be either or.
Yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Excellent.
Sorry,
Anything else?
Last plug for the R210. Councilman Gary is 100% correct that twin homes or duplexes both are allowable. But remember in that too that the only difference between a duplex and a twin home is literally whether you own one side, both sides, or whether it's owned by one person. And a lot of people do, investors, buy a duplex and live in one side and rent out the other. That happens too. But in terms of form and impact, the things that the neighbors were concerned about, traffic and
It was
and
traffic.
noise going from 0 cars to
Yeah.
cars from these units, that's the same impact exactly. There is literally no other
Right.
change.
I just wanted to make sure I called that
It's-
out though, that the
it's a good point.
investment is because that is something that could be different.
We're
amongst
hoping
us.
for the twin homes.
Agree, absolutely.
But if someone buys both sides of the townhouse, they have an investment and
They
they
can
can
do that
rent
as
it to
well.
one person.
But I do think someone
sit
mentioned
middle.
in our meeting that there was concern over duplex and how that, brings certain traffic in and that sort of thing as you have renters changing, that sort of thing. So just something to keep in mind.
Yep, absolutely correct. Thank you.
Thank you, guys. All right, last thing. I want to thank Councilmember Rosalba for being our LPC representative and following all of the bills.
Fun times. Today and tonight is the last date for any new bills to come up to the House floor of the Senate. It's been an exciting week, to say the least. I was at LPC, or I was there on Friday morning to listen to HB 462, and it got killed in committee, which was fun. I mean, if you really want to learn Robert Rules of Order, sit on a committee and you'll learn really quick how to hold and conduct a meeting. Okay, so let's start with HB 462. I just gave you the agenda from yesterday from Utah Leagues and Towns and Cities, or Utah League of Cities and Towns. HB 462 is Representative Waldrop. It's about the Utah Housing Affordability Amendments. I actually spoke at this committee, coming to really understand this bill. Murray's already putting a lot of the guidelines that they're recommending in place, and just reiterating that it hasn't come to the floor. There is going to be an amendment with the transit bill. They're going to add that on to 462 with the transit stations, and that I've been kind of in communication with Zach about that as well, and they've been considering your statements and have asked for those to be looked at, and so we've been working with them on that. HB 416, the league is opposing for property rights ombudsman amendments. Currently, it's in the second reading in the Senate. It hasn't been slated for a vote yet, so it hasn't been circled back around. It just basically expands, if I understand this correctly, maybe GL can help me with this. It expands the authority that gives them so that we can't just, so cities can't take eminent domain or use eminent domain at their will. Is that correct?
I think if this is the bill I'm thinking of, this is one where someone can ask for an opinion from the ombudsman regarding.
An eminent domain.
It's not eminent domain. What is? Right.
Oh,
Any of
ordinances.
if our
Oh, yeah.
ordinances are constitutional. They can ask for an opinion. It's not a binding
Oh,
opinion.
that's right. That's right.
But
Yes.
it means something later on.
So basically, any developer can come, any developer can come in and ask to question any of our guidelines or anything that we set in place.
If we put lead back in or something like that.
Correct. HB 303, we are in support of, and that's the local land use amendments. Currently, it's in its second reading in the Senate. HB 440, this one, we are in negotiation with the sponsor. Currently, majority of the cities within Salt Lake County have come to an agreement that basically it creates a committee that they would decide who gets an overnight shelter within Salt Lake County. They've increased the amount that they would provide up to $5 million of appropriations from the state. It's about $5.7 million from other cities that give it to given to the pool. So currently, the cities that are most affected are Midvale, Salt Lake, and South Salt Lake. There is an addition to this that if you have a empty storefront, you can have an overnight shelter. So potentially, with us being kind of in the middle, it could push us into a situation that we're uncomfortable with. There is a part of that called the flex that we've all agreed not to have that would increase the amount of fire code capacity of a building that can hold overnight shelters. So if your fire code says 50, they could push it up to 100 or however they deem fit to fit more people. And
You're on the right track, yes.
Okay.
Yep.
So we're in negotiations. I think what the sponsor really wanted is to see that cities are coming together and saying, look, okay, fine. We're going to come to agree to disagree, but we also want to still have some say in those, what the overnight shelters are going to look like, where it's going to be, et cetera, et cetera. Because they could what they were proposing is that they could decide wherever they would want them in the city.
So if I can add to that.
Sorry.
Are you done?
Yeah.
Okay. So
for that part.
So the idea behind this section of this bill is that there's been a struggle to provide overflow in Salt Lake or South Salt Lake or Midvale. And so the state is looking at passing this bill that would essentially say those three existing facilities can increase their capacity during the winter months and the summer months, which turns out to be year-round.
They started out winter only.
So what you find, we found this with the fire code, is typically your restrictions are zoning code. Fire code allows way more than the zoning code. And so what they've said originally was you can go up to 100% of what the fire code will allow. It's now down to 50%, which is still more than what they have in there. And the concern Salt Lake City expressed was they actually have social services going in there. They would be displaced room-wise, space-wise, if they increase it beyond what it is right now. So the state has said, well, if that doesn't work, then the state can step in and preempt cities and choose a state building to have a for-profit or nonprofit organization run the overflow wherever they can find the building. And we would have no say over that. The other thing is the mayors are supposed to get together of Salt Lake County, about 15 that aren't, probably Salt Lake could be involved as well anyway, but they're supposed to get together and come up with a plan to find a place in one of the cities to house the overflow. And theoretically, it's supposed to come around every 1 to 4 or 5 years for each community. So essentially it's establishing more permanent homeless housing, even if they call it temporary. Really, it seems to us that it's a preemption by the state. So the way the LPC left it was, let's not say that we will agree to the flex, which is letting them increase their capacity because they just don't want to increase it. And let's see if we can't just work on plan ourselves. And we'll see what the state legislature says. may or may not go with that.
And under our commercial zoning, we homeless shelters are allowed under that zone. Is that
Yes,
correct?
but in this case, if the state stepped in.
Well,
it-
but they could do
yeah,
it any way they
yes,
wanted to.
Yes.
So is it proactive of the council to try to
Yes.
figure something out?
Right. Well, it's
And
not the
we-
council.
Be
It's
the-
the.
so
Or-
all the mayors need to
It's
get.
all
Well,
the
no, I
mayors.
know, but something for Murray. Do we be proactive and decide where we want things?
I think it should just go to
having people-
RC Willie.
Good.
Did I say that?
I'll talk to Beverly. Beverly just showed up.
Sorry.
Again.
We don't own that building.
It
Well,
would be any
state-owned,
state
but you
owned.
define state-owned as they could go find a
But
building anywhere.
from my
and buy it.
understanding, it was any empty storefront too, not just state owned.
Well,
That's where they're
you
going to go
can't
look.
just come into a private
Right.
business and put people in there. So they
Right.
have to
Right.
be
Yeah, you're right.
purchased.
You're right. You're right.
Purchased by the state.
You're
if they
right.
want to do that. But I think what they're saying also is the city would try to find whatever it could.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't know if all the cities, we don't have just buildings lying around for use.
Yeah, we don't have a lot of space. So that's a hot topic one, as you can tell. But today ultimately would have to be the last day that they would find the negotiation before it comes to the floor, or the sponsor would just move it as is. So I think Cameron is working really hard. Or I think, no, it did get past committee, so they're still negotiating before it goes to the floor for a vote. That's where we're at. And then they would have an amendment to that. HB 242, we are opposing for secondary water metering. HB 399, government records amendments. Currently, it returned to rules. It may come back or it may die tonight. So there's no movement on that. But other than that, it's
Really
been,
quickly,
Go
on
ahead.
the secondary water, is that like, define it for me here?
So really what it essentially does is that there's some cities that aren't even metering their water. And so it's pushing.
Right, but second
Community.
culinary is what we all get to
Weaver
our
water.
homes. It's pardon?
Example, Weber Water.
So it's water coming out of the canyon that doesn't go through a treatment plant or something like that.
It is what,
What's the? There's another name for it. Irrigation water is what I
Irrigation,
was thinking. And we don't currently meter that, and we're opposing. The council, the Utah League of Cities and Towns, is opposing metering it. That's what
Correct.
you're saying.
Yeah.
Hmm.
There's a lot, because there's a lot of, it would displace a lot of cities financially, is what the argument is.
Have you ever seen someone's home that has the irrigation water? Their
Oh, I
grass is
have.
about as green as it gets. So year round.
You would love LPC. Just telling you that now. But yeah, it's been fun. And so if you want to, please keep track of some of those bills and see where they're at. And maybe I'll give you a summation at the end of the week and see where they're at. But other than that, 462 is probably the main one.
Thank you so much for that update. All right, and with that, we are adjourned. See you back at 6:30.
Okay, it's 6:30. It's time to call this meeting to order. I'm Pam Cotter, and just to give you a little heads up, it's like my first day of substituting, where I knew the curriculum and I get in there and I make a few mistakes along the way, and the kids laughed at me and they got their assignment and I got through it. So that's how I visualize tonight. This is my first one, so be kind. I'd like to welcome everyone here tonight. It looks like we do not have Council Member Diane is not here tonight, so we'd like to excuse her. I would like to ask also that all cell phones be turned to silent. If you need to take a call, please take it out in the hallway. Thank you. And I've asked Danny, where's Danny, to say our pledge for us tonight. Thank you, Danny. You are hiding. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you, Danny. So our first agenda item, let me get my paperwork here, is the approval of minutes. Are there any correction? Oh,
There is a correction, actually. Others in attendance. I don't know a Jenny Herekasi. So that's either Jill, who was there, or Terry, who was also there. So
Where did you find that? Because I read that and I'm going,
it's an other in attendance. So
Oh.
Jill and Terry Herekasi were both there,
oh, okay.
but not Jenny. So
Okay, was there any other comments or questions on the minutes to be approved? If none, can I have a motion and a second?
I move that we motion and correct the names on others in attendance move that we approve the minutes with the corrections for February 1st, 2022. There we go.
I second.
Thank you. Are you ready? Okay. Then all in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Sorry. Aye.
Do we take a vote? Because, thank you. Okay, thank you. Any opposed? None? Thank you. Okay, we have hold on, let me get my paper here. There are no special recognitions at this time. We do have a special presentation from Mayor Brett Hales, the 2022 State of the City Address.
Thank you, Pam. I too, like Pam, am thinking like, what the heck? This is my first State of the City address, and I'm a little nervous. I don't know why I'm real nervous, but I'm a little nervous for that. Just I know that President Biden's doing his. I'm wondering if I'll have more views than him. I'm just curious. I don't know. I think I'm going to have 5 and he'll have a trillion. But anyway, so I'm excited to be here. Thank you, Council. And it's incredibly humbling to be delivering my first State of the City address. As I sat down to write this, along with my help from my aide, Tammy, who is so good at doing that, the first thing I thought that went through my head was, I'm going to show you a picture. I thought, how on earth am I doing this? To think that a few years back, I was not even walking. With my multiple sclerosis, had a setback, and I had to learn to re-walk. And I mean, really, it's when you live it, it doesn't seem as much. It just doesn't seem like that's a big deal. But when I look back at it, I think, what a miracle that I was able to. I used to be on a feeding tube and in a wheelchair, and to think that I'm able to walk and not just walk, but to be able to be presenting this to you today is very humbling for me. And it's just almost unreal for me to believe that I'm able to do that. But and interesting when I look back on that, the miracle of modern medicine, modern things that allowed me to walk. There was a device that shocks my legs that would shock me to walk, and it would lift my. I couldn't lift my like heel to toe, and so this device, when I would touch my toe, it would shock it and lift my foot up, and it's just crazy to think that what we have available to us. Now that shock hurt real bad, but it was worth it because it was forcing me into walking again. So anyway, just kind of remarkable, and I give a lot of credit to my wife, Cindy, who's here today. We're going on 40 years this year, and not once has she ever, not once. Now that's hard to believe because I've complained a lot. She's never complained about this. Never. I mean, you might hear that and think, no, she's never complained, not once, which is what got me to where I am here today. So I give her a lot of credit and our family. I want to thank all who supported me and even those that didn't support me for my campaign. I have been working tirelessly. And I really have. I mean, we have, and what's cool about this is I said to Cindy the other day, I said, this is so awesome because a few years ago, never thought I'd have this opportunity, some people say they dream of things. This is not something I never dreamt of and probably had nightmares of, but never dreamt of. But I looked at her and it was the holiday, President's Day, and I said, I'm excited to go back to work tomorrow. And she looked at me and I thought, oh, why did I say that? I can't even believe I said that. But I am, because it's so fun to be able to work with everyone. And so this is a wonderful opportunity for me. So I also want to thank my colleagues for the past decade on the City Council. Thank you. It's been a blast. I loved serving with you on the City Council. All the council members, Jennifer, Patty, Crystal, Jan Lopez, all those before that helped change my life. So it's been awesome for me, and I fully understand and respect the legislative and administrative roles. It seems a little odd sometimes to have moved to from the legislative side to the administrative side of things, but what's so amazing is we have so many wonderful employees and council members that, you know, when you think of back east, when I say back east, I'm talking in Washington, D.C., and I'm thinking like, there's no question there's 3 separate branches, but it's so amazing to be a part of the City Council, our legal team, GL. In fact, I consider GL one of my great friends, and it's so amazing how it works because can you imagine our Congress and our House and the Senate and the Congress sharing the same attorney with the administration back east? There's no way. That can't happen. You can't have the same attorney. You can't have the same finance department. But we do. We share that. And that is a testament to show how well we get along. We really get along. And that was my biggest thing here as to run for mayor for this position, was to be able to bring us together as a council and department heads so that we didn't, of course we disagree on certain things. That's okay. It's okay to disagree, but it's okay to be kind when we disagree. That is such a wonderful thing, to be able to be kind when you disagree. It seems like that's a foreign thing nowadays, but I feel like for me, that's one of the most important things. And it's been a wonderful, Tammy and Kathy and Doug's out of town, but he'll be back. But it's been 2 months. Is that right? 2 months. Feels like 102 months. No, I'm kidding. It feels like it's not hardly been any time at all, but it's been 2 months. So what has the city done for you as citizens? Without boring you with details, I'll just highlight the ways the city has tried to make your life better. Your personal safety is always a top concern. The police department hired 12 new officers to help with the number of calls that grew by more than 25%. They still need a few more officers to be fully staffed, but they've been amazing how they've handled it. Our fire department calls also increased 10% from the previous year. But thankfully, the crews were ready, having logged more than 7,000 hours in training. Fire also supported the wildlife suppression efforts, traveling to 3 out-of-state fires for 49 days in the past year. And we are so good to do that. We're so good with all our departments, our power department, to be able to share our service with other cities and other states to help protect them. The city has also been focused on the things that you hopefully take for granted. For instance, keeping the lights on. You know, we don't think much about keeping the lights on, but when they go off, then we're all going like, what the heck's going on? And we all know what's going on over in Ukraine. This was a picture that our son, who was on a service mission for our church in 2014, believe it or not, 2014, he was there. And this picture was taken 8 years ago today. And to say that we were nervous, I can't even express. When as sad as he was when they closed down, he was in. This was taken in Kharkiv. I believe there was a building that was Freedom Square was blown today, and his apartment was right across the street from that. And that, when I think about our freedoms here and what we have, and sometimes we complain about certain things, and I think, my goodness, when I look at this picture, I'm reminded that we have it pretty good. We're pretty blessed, and we're not pretty blessed. We're way blessed, and we're lucky. Does it seem like life is unfair and all that? Yeah, it does. But we are a blessed nation. We are a blessed state. We're a blessed city. Murray City is a well-run city. It's amazing. The city has also been focused on the things that, oh, I said that, or sorry. For instance, keeping the lights on. A storm blew through in July, causing multiple outages for 6,000 Murray customers for up to 8 hours. And that was in our area. Cindy, that was in our neighborhood. And it was amazing to watch the city come together. It was really, what was amazing is the residents were asking for a lot. They were doing a lot of them themselves. Were cutting down the trees. Neighbors were helping other neighbors that couldn't help each other. And Cindy and I went through, and with Councilman Cox at the time, we went through, and it was amazing what we found. And then the next day to see all the branches and everything, a tree was on a home, and then to see the city get together, and they just picked up all the debris, and it was amazing. Within a week, I think it was all picked up. Patty, you lived there, and you witnessed probably your own home and others. So it was just amazing to see the city in action, the residents in action, and then the city in action. Everyone from line workers to office personnel pitched in to help restore the power. Natural gas prices doubled during the summer, but power ran turbines almost continually to generate power, saving more than $1 million. You may not realize that more than 100 miles of sewer lines were cleaned, but you might know if such cleanings did not take place. Crews also replaced 1.5 miles of damaged sidewalk. More than 5,000 tripping hazards were removed, and 724 potholes were filled. So I know we have a lot more to go, but guess what? They're working their tails off on trying to get those fixed. During this current ongoing drought, we're very proud of our citizens of Murray. The residents, they reduced the water use by more than 130 million gallons. This was not a requirement, it was a request. 130 millions of gallons, which resulted in a $600,000 cost savings to the residents. Some of the other ways the city has tried to improve our lives, created an online container reservation system for 20-yard and 30-yard trailers and green waste containers, referred hundreds of critically ill or aging customers to various assistance programs like HEAT or CAP for the help of paying utility bills, provided drive-up window services at the library during COVID for convenience and efficient curbside service, created a book bike in the park to provide an easy means of checking out and returning books, replaced 5 pavilions. Kim, where are you? Do we just have 5 pavilions in Murray Park? We replaced all of them. And they're beautiful. If you haven't seen them, they are so beautiful. And they're going to last a long time. But we replaced every one in the park. increasing capacity and improving the experience for all our residents and all patrons. There were also other efforts that are underway to make the city even better. The old Murray Theater. That was something I thought would never happen, and all of a sudden we're seeing it renovated. And with the help of Salt Lake County, that gave us about $3.6 million. We had to match that. It was taken away during COVID and then returned. And then the state legislators have been working hard to assist us in that, to restore it and renovate it. The Murray Mansion is getting a facelift to include a new elevator and restroom. The city received a clean audit report which ensures that federal funds were spent correctly. Construction of the new city hall is moving along with completion set for March 2023. So a year from now, we will be in our new city hall. And I'm not kidding you, the leaks that have gone on in this building, we have a basement, a cellar. How many in here have been in that cellar? Look at on the back row. I'm not kidding you. I started to go once and I said, no, thank you. I said, I'm not going to go. I'm a little claustrophobic. And I thought, oh, just, yeah. Look at everyone smiling back there. This is going to be great. Anyway, what would the state of the city report be if it did not include some interesting tidbits of information? The Murray Parkway Trail saw a record-breaking over 276,000 people in 2021. There was an 11% decrease in the number of customer service calls to our finance department, but there were still more than 32,000 calls. For decades, I'm talking about the basement here, the city hall has collected old documents and supplies. Now, after more than 300 round trips, oh my goodness, to the basement, the extra items have been removed. Much of it is sold as surplus, garnering over $8,000. Public information included 195 public notices, 45 public hearings, and monthly e-newsletters. Finally, I just want to again thank everyone who participated in the general election. 3 municipal races, so there obviously was the mayoral race. And then we had 2 other races. Congratulations to Pam Cotter. She's conducting tonight. She's like a pro. She thinks she's not, but I've watched her in action. She's done great. District 2, Pam, and then Diane Turner, who's not here tonight, but I think she's watching, who won her reelection. And then in District 4, and then to replace me, which he's done, that's going to be a simple thing for Gary to have done. Gary Herekasi? How did I say that? Thanks. GL, you know. He tried to say that about a few weeks ago, and he's really good. GL's so good at that. So when he said it wrong, oh, I was so happy. I'm sorry, GL. Like I said, it is, anyway. All of us, anyway, so congratulations. Welcome, Gary. All of us and those who are already serving will work hard to represent you in the city well in 2022 and beyond. I just want to say one more time before I say a little bit of a closing here is just thanks to the council. You guys are amazing. I loved working with you. And it's so awesome that I have a habit of still coming in, and Jennifer, I hope you still let me do it, coming through the council. I want to come in and say hi when I'm going by. I don't like walking around. I want to come through and visit you. I love it. It's absolutely a blast to do that. So thank you for allowing me to do that. And then again, Tammy, who is our, Tammy, what is it called? I am horrible at that. CPC, Chief Communication Officer. I always say public relations. That's old. That's an old man saying that. You don't say that anymore. Anyway, she's amazing. She came to us from a lot of work with the state, and then a few years ago, KSL, Tammy Kikuchi from KSL. I always remembered that name, and then when I ran into her, I thought, is this the Tammy Kikuchi from KSL? And we hit it off, and we've had a blast. Tammy and I got to go to the Murray game yesterday and support them. Murray High School men's basketball. It was a blast. They won. Seems like I'm bad luck sometimes, but they were losing when we got there, and they end up winning. So I'll take credit for that. And Doug is amazing. Doug, I kept on. He was with the previous administration, Doug Hill, and he's priceless. I mean, he's amazing. And Kathy, our administrative assistant, is just amazing setting our appointments up. And then again, I I'll speak personally, GL, I love working with you because GL is a good friend, but he's not afraid to say to me or any of us, like, I'm being nice when I'm saying this. When I say, he says, hey, we really shouldn't do that. He sometimes will say, no way. I'm keeping you out of hot water. So anyway, GL's been a major blessing. I can go to him anytime I want to get advice, and he freely gives it to me. I can call him on the phone anytime. It's amazing. So thank you. And thank you to our department heads. You guys, men and women, are amazing. It's fun to work with you. We have department head meeting at 9 o'clock on Tuesdays, and it's fun. We just make it really fun. We're all in this together, and I know the least of everyone. So thank you for letting me be a part of that, and all employees. Your employees that are here today, thank you. And if you're here or not, thank you. We have the best employees. We do. We have the best employees. Murray City is a wonderful place to live. Sometimes in council meetings, we'll see things and you're thinking like, oh, what is that? Yet it's usually only a few people, and they're great concerns. This is not a negative thing that's happening. It's great things to bring to our attention, but it's not a lot, and we are a lucky and a blessed city. So I feel it a privilege to be a part of Murray City. I have an open door policy. I always will. You might not be able to get me for 3 months because of my schedule. I'm kidding, but it is. We're going night and day. We're here from morning we'll be here till 8 or 9 tonight. But I love it. I absolutely love doing it. But the open door policy is not just for citizens, it's for employees. Know that. I would love to have you come up, and I love that you do. There's a young man who works for Jeff Martin in facilities. I think it's Braden. Is it Braden? No, not Aaron. Braden. Yeah, he's just new. He just started here. He's a young man, and he's going to Slick. And what I love about him most is he had no idea that I was the mayor. No idea. He said, "No, what's your name?" And I said, "Brett." So now he comes into the office and he does some little cleaning, and he says, "How you doing, Brett?" I love that. There's nothing greater to me that this young man will call me Brett. I think it's awesome that he's willing to do that, and that there's no guile in him. He's just a simple young man, and yet he's a great worker. He's fun to have around, like every one of us, every one of you. If you ever, I'm just going to give this information out. Contact us at mayor@murray.utah.gov, or call Kathy, our administrative assistant, 801-264-2600, 801-264-2600. I sound like I'm a disc jockey, don't I? Anyway, I just want you to know that I love being here, and Murray is in good shape, and we're a lucky, blessed community. Thank you.
Mayor, do you have any family here that you would like to introduce? Okay, go right ahead.
Yes. We have 5 kids, all have married, they all have partners. There's 11 grandkids, 1 on the way. Nobody's here but Cindy. But anyway, that's okay. She announced that I was going to do this today, and I said, "Cindy, don't do that to our kids." I said, just let them do their thing. And so I don't know if they're watching, but Cindy, come up here for a minute. Will you? Just for one second. I know she didn't let me do this, but come up just for a second. Give her a hand. I am the luckiest guy to have her by my side, and she's going to be going part-time and helping me out a little bit more here, but
Tell my age.
her age, I would never tell you age because I'm within a year or 2 of you, so we keep that private. Anyway, thank you again, and I love you, Cindy. Thanks. Thanks.
Thank you, Mayor. Does the council have anything that they have for the mayor?
I'm excited. I'm excited how many more potholes we can fix.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, we are now going to be going on to citizen comments. This is how it will be held. The speaker has up to 3 minutes to make their comments unless given prior approval for additional time or 5 minutes of speaking for a group. Please step to the microphone, state your name and city of residence. Make sure you fill out a form from our council director, Jennifer Kennedy, right here. This is not the time for speakers who would like to address a public hearing. Public comments for public hearings will be given during the public hearing presentation.
Really quickly, if they could also point out their district if they are Murray residents, that would be helpful, if that's okay.
Got it working. There we go. How's that? All right. My name is Lawrence Horman. I've addressed the council before. As far as my place of residence, that just happens to be where I'm standing most of the time. That being because I am among the counties and cities, many homeless residents are considered homeless. As far as what district, since I have no residence, I'm sorry, but although I consider myself in Diane Turner's area as far as what my vote goes to. Anyhow, I wanted to speak today. I was at County Council earlier today, and there was a presentation made by the leader of the homeless Salt Lake Valley Coalition to End Homelessness. And it was about the subject in particular, dealing with helping out medically vulnerable people, housing for medically vulnerable people. And I won't give you their presentation. I wasn't actually in the room for it. I have a packet that they gave to me. I am as heavily as I can be involved with the coalition. I am a voting member on a couple of different committees. Specifically, they have a solution that they presented. It's what I talked about the last time that I was here. And I'm just going to read you this one page to give you the general concept of it. The way they present it here pretty much sums it up on this page. It's one solution, medical vulnerable people housing. Description, a non-congregate, as in housing for individuals, not resource centers or shelters, where everybody's crowded in the same room. That for people who are sick, who have medical conditions, this is the worst way to handle it is in a crowded space. A non-congregate facility to be acquired to help improve the housing and health outcomes of aging and medically complex homeless individuals. A facility to also include flexible space to meet seasonal overflows of the community. Considerations, it provides housing for aging and medically vulnerable individuals, flexible to meet evolving housing overflow needs of the community. It's suggested further back on a different page that such a facility would be able to handle, or collective group of facilities would be able to handle at least 200 or more individuals as needed. And it is my personal opinion that emergency overflow should be capable of handling at least 1,000 people, potentially. I imagine that the roughly 200 people that they list here in this packet is about what would be average, but I can see it going up to as many as 1,000 people under the right circumstances in this valley. My point in getting up to speak with you or in front of you today is to encourage you to help out with this. Get in touch with the county and other cities, if I may take just a moment more, and help them out financially. Encourage helping them find facilities, helping them find the finances to fund it, providing whatever can be provided, and encourage the city, the citizenship in general to do this. Present a better face for what and who the homeless are, not just drug addicts and mentally ill people wandering the streets aimlessly, and help us to get in a situation, because if we can do this, we can help get people off the streets and onto their own 2 feet where they need little or no help. That's it. Thank you.
Thank you. And we have Councilman Dominguez that needs to make
I just have a public comment that came to me through email, and they couldn't be here, so I'm going to go ahead and just read it. I don't have much time, but I just wanted to quickly mention something to you that goes to heart of the difficulties the citizens have with city government. I hope we can talk more and brainstorm on how we can collectively work together. The city keeps doing the same thing over and over, not understanding that they are not connecting with citizens. The design guidelines on the agenda today are just this kind of thing. Instead of starting by talking with citizens and figuring out what citizens would like, the staff develops a huge package and then brings it to the Planning Commission and the City Council in so-called public hearing. This is a huge part of getting a good downtown, and yet the staff does things without citizens. The project is just far down the road, and that citizens cannot or can't do anything about it. As we keep learning over and over, the Planning Commission and the City Council just give you good interaction with the public. This way of doing things is what people hate about the city. The open house in the fall was a good start at doing things differently. The main problem was that it was so late in the process. I don't know how we get everyone to see this more clearly. The city has been so cut off from its citizens for so long. We just need things to be presented to the citizens so that they get their views and ideas and participation. These are just some rough thoughts. I hope we can talk about it later. I think there's a lot we can do, and maybe we can help each other understand that if we want citizens to be involved, we have to work at it. Thanks for what you do. And from Brett in District 3. Thank you.
You're welcome. Is there any other comments? Hey, thank you for your comments this evening. We will now go on to the consent agenda. We have 2 items on the consent agenda tonight. I will read both of them. And then Mayor, would you like to introduce these appointees or make any other comments? Okay, the first one is to consider confirmation of the mayor's reappointment of Max Derrick to the Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board. And then the second one is to consider confirmation of the mayor's appointment of Ronald Lindgren to the Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board. Mayor?
Would you guys please stand? Thank you for being here. Okay. All right. We sure appreciate it. Today, were you over there today for our, what's over there? How come I get Mardi Gras? What a great thing. And we sure appreciate your service. I'm telling you, our Senior Rec Center is amazing, and our volunteers thank you. It really was, wasn't it? It was crowded. So thank you so much, and we're grateful that you're willing to continue to serve. So thank you. Okay, we'll turn that back over to you. Thanks, Pam.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, does anyone on the council object to taking all items together? Okay, I would entertain a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Yes.
Sorry, go ahead. No,
Oh,
go
I
ahead,
thought you nodded
Gary.
at me. I move that we approve the confirmation of the mayor's reappointment of Max Derrick to the Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board, and that we confirm the mayor's appointment of Ronald Lilligren to the Senior Recreation Center Advisory Board.
I will second.
Brooke? Oh, you're not Brooke. Laura. I knew you were Laura. That's my daughter's name.
Aye.
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 Aye. Okay, thank you. Now we're on to public hearings. We have 2 public hearings. I will read both of them. Is that okay? Just one at one? Okay. Okay. Consider a resolution appointing Laverne A. Snow to the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board, and Councilmember Martinez will be presenting.
Thank you. So this appointment was posted for 30 days publicly, and there was only one application. That applicant was Laverne A. Snow, and she's previously served on the board. We will be getting a presentation from her about what the program looks like, what that does for our city, in an upcoming committee of the whole meeting, so we can look forward to that. But today I'm asking for your support in approving her to serve another term.
Thank you.
And it is a public hearing.
So this is a public hearing. Those wishing to comment on this matter under consideration this evening are asked to complete the public hearing comment form. Please hand that form to Jennifer. If you do not wish to speak to the matter but would like to enter a written comment into the record, please complete the form entertaining your comments and indicate that you do not wish to speak. No one's here to speak on it. Okay. Well,
close the public hearing.
Okay, we're now going to close the public hearing. Does any of the members of the council wish to ask questions or anything? Nothing? Okay. So the public comment portion of this hearing is closed. I will now close the public hearing and I will take a motion on the resolution.
I will move that we adopt a resolution appointing Laverne A. Snow to the South Salt Lake Valley Mosquito Abatement for District Board.
Nice second.
Okay, we have Councilmember Dominguez has moved and Councilmember Harakasi has second to approve the resolution appointing LeVar A. Snow to the South Valley Mosquito Abatement District Board.
Let me ask for the roll.
Oh, no, and roll call, Laura, please. Thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. So this resolution has passed. We are now on to our next public hearing, item number 2. This is considered an ordinance amending section 12.28.030 and 12.28.040 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to golf course fees. Mr. Kim Sorensen will be presenting tonight. Welcome.
Thank you, Councilman Cotter and Council and Mayor. So you probably remember a couple of weeks ago we discussed the golf course fees. And just to recap the discussion from a few weeks ago, we are raising some of our golf fees, and they will be raised to about average of courses like ours, if not average, maybe a little bit below average. We expect that to change because other courses are raising their fees as we're raising ours. So by the summertime, we'll be probably a little below average. So, any questions?
I don't.
Okay.
No, thank you. I guess what I'll reiterate is that we're just matching what other golf courses that are comparative to ours.
It's been the policy of Murray City with the golf course to be at average or below, not above average. And we feel our course is better than average, but it works.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you, Kim. Okay. So now we're on to the public comment. Is anyone here to make a comment? Okay, looks like there's nobody. So, I need to close the public hearing. We need to close the public hearing. Does the council have anything to add? Okay, then I will now entertain a motion on the ordinance of amending section 12.28.030 and 12.28.040 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to the golf course fee. Do I have a motion?
I motion that we approve the ordinance amending sections 12.28.030 and 12.28.040 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to golf course fees.
I'll second.
Okay, it looks like we have Councilmember Harakasi has moved and Councilmember Martinez has second to approve of the ordinance amending section 12.28.030 and 12.28.040 of the Murray City Municipal Code related to golf course fees. Is there any discussion?
No, it's just a roll call, right?
Okay, so Laura, roll call, thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, so it looks like we're on to business items. First one is consider a resolution approving the mayor's appointment of Jennifer Stout as the city treasurer. Mayor Hales will be presenting.
My goodness, you've seen enough of me. Come on up, Jennifer. This is a privilege of mine. She's awesome. She's absolutely awesome. Got family here. They made me do so. Yeah, I know. She's not shy. You know that? Mom and dad, and I'm over here going like, she's awesome. Brenda had recommended her and Emily, and it was pretty simple. And had the opportunity to meet with Jennifer, and she qualifies, and we're very excited for her to be. Poor Kim Sorensen, he's the Parks and Rec director. They've all heard, look at him laughing, because he just gets the great employees, and then he says, I'm training them for finance. He says, that's what I do. I train them for the finance department. Well, he was right. So anyway, Jennifer has been a great asset. She worked over at the Park Center and with Kim, and now she's with your confirmation. She's going to be a part of over here at City Hall as our treasurer. So I'm going to let her say something, but I'm going to let you guys go ahead and make that motion.
I will move to make a motion to accept a resolution approving the Mayor Hale's appointment to Jennifer Stout as the city treasurer.
I'll second.
Laura, will you call for a vote? Thank you.
Aye.
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 Okay, can we have her say something?
Oh,
all right, come over. I know, Jennifer. Look here, Jennifer. I'm going to make you say it. I'm paying you back for a few things, but anyway, come on up. But we're excited. That's how simple it was. They all knew that you'd be great, and they saw your application and resume, and you are very well qualified. So we're grateful to have you on board. But come on and say whatever you want to say, and I'll leave it up to you.
Short and sweet. Thank you, Mayor. Thank you, Council. I've worked at Murray for a year now, and it has truly been the highlight of my career. So I'm just very excited for this next chapter. So thank you for this opportunity.
And thank you.
Oh, my parents, Kathy and Doug Stout, they actually live in Murray. My entire life, they've been here in District 2. And then my boyfriend, Travis, here for support.
That's my neighborhood. Well, I just remembered the name, but I'm just like going, I better not say anything because I don't want to look stupid. But you know.
And now you know. So thank you guys very much.
Thank you. Okay. We will go on to number 2. It's consider a resolution. Oh, wait. Oh, sorry. We need to okay you. That's right. We have to swear you in.
GL nicely said, would you like to swear her in? I said, oh, that's a great idea.
I state your name. Having been appointed to the office of Murray City Treasurer, do solemnly swear that I will support, obey, and defend the Constitution of the United States and the Constitution of this state, and perform the duties of my office with fidelity.
Thank you. Thank you. Okay, we are on number 2. You can leave or stay.
Yeah, go celebrate. Enjoy yourselves.
Do you want to go to dinner?
Oh, wait. Brett's wanting you to leave.
So now I can do number 2. We don't have to take a vote, correct? We already did that? Okay. So now we're on to number 2. Consider a resolution approving a public entity resolution authorizing certain employees to access and transact with City Public Treasury's Investment Fund, PTIF accounts. Emily Barton will be presenting. Welcome, Emily.
Thank you, Councilmember Cotter. Just because I've never been before any of you before, I'm Emily Barton, and I work under Brenda Moore as the controller for the city. So thank you for letting me be here tonight. Murray City invests a majority of our cash in the state's treasurer's public investment fund, also known as the PTIF. When changes need to be made as to who within the city can deposit or withdraw money, the state treasurer's office requires that these changes be made through a resolution approved by the city council. With the new treasurer being appointed, the change being requested tonight is to remove Wendell Coombs and add Jennifer Stout to the resolution. I'm happy to answer any questions if there are any.
I don't have any.
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you, Emily, for coming. Thank you.
And we do have to take a vote, correct?
Mhm.
Yeah.
Mhm.
I will move to motion. I motion to adopt a resolution approving public entity resolution authorizing certain employees to access the and transact with City Public Treasurer's Investment Fund, PTIF accounts.
I'll second.
Laura, will you take a vote for us? Thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And now you can go eat. Thank you, guys. What cuties. Okay, we will go on to our third one. Consider a ordinance amending chapter 2.68 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to the Murray City Center District Design Review Committee. Danny and Jared will be present. Oh, it looks just like Jared tonight.
Just me at this point.
Okay, thank you.
And I have several slides. I'm kidding. I don't have any slides for this. Just you can go ahead and be relieved. I have no slides. This is I appreciate being able to talk to you about it real quickly, and I'll keep it short, and you can ask me any questions you might have. This is an amendment that we're proposing to Title II of the City Municipal Code. We have made changes that do this same thing in Title 17 and the zoning. That's the zoning ordinance, and that's kind of where I live. And we made changes to that a long time ago, a while ago, adjusting the name of the Design Review Committee to just Review Committee. So in the MCCD, for background, so you understand, usually it's just Planning Commission that reviews items in application or its staff, and some things come onto the City Council. But there are those things that happen in the downtown zone and that MCCD zone that have to get reviewed by a review committee, a design review committee, before they go to the Planning Commission. When we made some changes to Title 17, to that zone, we retitled or renamed that committee the Review Committee. And I moved blissfully on in my life because I lived mostly in Title 17. I don't deal with the other titles. But luckily, Susan works for us, and she pointed out that I had skipped this where that committee is created in Title II. I can't remember if it was Susan or if it was Brian GL. Somebody smarter than me reminded me that we needed to change that. So we're back before you to make that change. And literally, the only change to Title II is in that chapter where that committee is established to strike the word design from the two places that it's mentioned. Other than that, everything stays the same. you have any questions for us about that? It's to make it match the changes we made to Title 17 for the name of the committee.
And there's one more change, it looks like, where it's going from quarterly to annually.
That was struck, I believe, or is that still in the?
It's I show that it's originally said the committee shall meet
all
at
right.
least quarterly. That's been struck, and now it says annually.
Right, and I apologize. I had intended to remove that from it after when we met about it before. That was a concern for the council. It really isn't. We're not concerned about it because we can handle things. We'll have the meetings regardless. But we're not concerned if you want to strike that from it and redo it as a part of the motion tonight. We're not concerned about it being stated to meet quarterly. It's a simple thing to cancel them. And the other meetings, we schedule a year's worth of meetings. And then if we don't need to hold them because we don't have any applications, we cancel them before the meeting happens. But on those quarterly meetings, we'll hold them anyway just to do training or to talk about whatever. And we're fine to do that. We're not bothered by that if you want to make that change. And I had intended that. I apologize. I thought that was clear. So.
And I have no problem with it at all.
Well, and otherwise, it's just a cleanup bill. It's
It is.
just cleaning up the language,
Both
and
ways.
whether it states quarterly or yearly, it's if you have an application come in,
We have the meeting anyway.
you don't just say, sorry, we only have to do this once a year. We're going to
Right.
wait till January.
That's right. I think that was the concern, is that we would hold off or make people wait. We don't do that. If we
You
have an
process it
application.
as they come in.
We've had lots of years where we have 7 or 8 meetings. We just haven't had any recently, last couple of years.
Thank you.
Yeah, and I was the one that brought the concern, and the concern was just making sure that we were holding the meetings. Again, it's just the concerns from previous administration, and just making sure that that board is being active, whether we have anything in front of us. It's making sure that they're informed with what's going on, even with state code.
Sure.
What's going on with the review process, or just what they're looking for exactly. And I think what's also important to know, if we are going down the line of approving these guidelines, it is something that we should consider in keeping for that process.
That's a good point. And we don't have any issues with it as staff holding the meetings quarterly. It hasn't been a problem in the past. It just, and right now, for example, we're planning to have a meeting in March because we have a new member that was just appointed recently, a couple weeks ago. It's all kind of a blur. And we have a member from a year and a half ago that really hasn't had any meetings to attend other than the quarterlies. And we were during COVID, so they were Zoom meetings, and he'd benefit a lot from a live meeting we can have now. So we're planning to do one in March regardless. So. Okay.
Okay, thank you.
You bet. Thank you.
Yeah, I will make a motion. Someone?
Or you want me to make? Yeah,
Someone?
I will make a motion that we approve. Let me say, where am I?
Number 3.
Number 3. I marked that off. That's why I didn't. We consider an ordinance amending Chapter 2.68 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to Murray City Center District Design Review Committee with the amended of keeping quarterly and not just annually. I approve. Oh, I'm sorry. I thought I said approve. Approve the ordinance of Chapter 2.68 of the Murray City Municipal Code relating to Murray City Center District Design Review Committee and amending it to say quarterly versus annually.
I second.
Whoa.
Laura, will you call a roll for us today? Thank you.
Aye.
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 Aye. Thank you. Okay, we are on number 4. Consider a resolution approving the city council's appointment of representatives to boards and committees. We have Councilmember Kat Martinez presenting.
Thank you. So we had previously voted on several of the appointments, but we left one position open for whoever was selected to serve District 5. With Councilmember Hurekasi now representing District 5, bringing this back forward, this resolution for your approval, and that is to appoint Gary Hurekasi to the CIP board to serve alongside Councilmember Cotter, and the rest remain the same. Huh? He does know that. We did talk about it. Did he look really surprised? I was reading, so I didn't see his face. He just walks out.
Surprise.
No.
Okay. Could we have someone make a motion? on
I
that?
yes.
Okay.
I will approve a resolution approving the city council appointment of representatives to boards of Gary Hurekasi, Councilmember Gary Hurekasi, to the CIP board along with Councilmember Cotter.
I second it. Laura, can you call the roll, please? Thank you.
Aye.
Abstain.
Aye.
Aye. Thank you and welcome. It will be fun to be working with you. Thanks.
Looking forward to it.
It will be fun. Okay, now we are on to the mayor's reports and any questions? Mayor?
Thank you, Pam. We don't have really a lot. The only thing I will make the announcement, I'm sure most of you have heard that Jared has accepted the new position of our Community and Economic Department. You didn't know. So anyway, yeah. Yeah, anyway, so he'll be, I believe we're trying to get that done. Jennifer, we will do that next week.
So what's the new role?
Who said that? Oh, Director of the Community and Economic
And
Department.
what is he currently? Sorry.
He's a manager?
So it's a promotion to a new position
It's a-
in a new department or
Yep.
same department?
Same department.
Okay.
And we went through, had a review committee that Diane and Kat were on with us.
Okay, great.
And he was interviewed. And anyway, so I just thought we would welcome him and congratulate him. And he asked if he could speak. No, I'm kidding, Jared.
We would like you to speak.
Whoa, I'm kidding.
If you'd like.
Yeah.
So
And-
we'll still see you, right? In the-
You're going to see him. Yeah, probably more than what you do. Yeah. Anyway, so anyway, that's the. I'm trying to think. Tammy, was there anything else that we had? Okay, I think that's it.
Is his role being backfilled or is there
Yeah,
someone?
he will do that in his department.
And who's he replacing?
Melinda Greenwood that left back in December.
Okay. Sorry, I'm just,
Is
That's
someone-
okay, Gary.
So is someone going to take his place?
He will fill that.
He'll do
I
both
mean, no,
places?
he will. He's
Oh,
he's
he'll
the
fill
boss,
it.
so he'll.
Oh, you're the boss.
Yeah.
Not you. You.
No.
You're not.
Oh goodness, who's on first? All right.
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you, Mayor. Okay, with that, I'd like to thank everyone in coming out tonight, and I will close this meeting.